This is David Buddan, welcoming you to Belize Key Connection. Today we focus on Belizean personality Ishmael Omar Shabazz. He was visiting from Belize. He decided to drop by to our studios and say hi. Welcome to our studio, Shabazz.
Welcome.
You've been involved in so many different community-related activities dates way back to the
1962.
1962, there you go. Could you tell me how you first got started? Where did your level of community consciousness first get initiated?
It first started with my exposure to the religion of Islam, and which started in 1962.
Who was responsible for getting you involved in that?
There was a brother who was popularly known as Charles Egan, and he started teaching. I first came in contact with it through a newspaper ads in the Belize Times. And at that time I was very ardent in studying religion. And I saw this advertisement about at the Liberty Hall. And so I decided to check it out, and since then I've keep on stepping.
Okay, between 1962 and 1970, in the early years, as I would tend to put that, would you mention some of the groups that you've been involved in? I know that you've also been associated with UBAD.
Yes. In 1968, I was associated with the UBAD. UBAD had its birth. The first name was the UBCA, United Black Cultural Association, and later it became known as UBAD, United Black Association for Development.
For those who do not know, who have no idea of what kind of events led to the formation of such a group, what would you say was the reason for such a group to be formed, UBAD and the other such related groups around that time?
Okay, the UBAD was, there was that in the 60s and part of the 70s, there was that strong black consciousness that was very evident in the United States, the Caribbean, and other areas. And so Belize was no exception. And then at that time, Evan Exide, the editor of the Amandala, he came to Belize just out of the university. And so he began to teach some black history at the Bliss Institute. And then that forum developed and began to have an outreach. And so
there are many Belizeans who have come to the United States of America, and they have said that the first time that they noticed that any prejudice or racism existed is when they came here to the United States of America. Would you agree with that statement?
It has some truth to it, but in Belize, there is evidence. There has been, especially in the time of the UBAD movement. As a matter of fact, in those days, we had to protest against the banks, which we tell them they have to put some black faces in there, you know, and this...
Are you saying back in the 60s and the 70s they were hiring just
light skins, you know?
Okay.
And we come down heavily on them from the UBAD forum, you know? But the racism in Belize has different levels. For instance, it was common in Belize to have a thing between the Spanish, so-called, the Creole man, that is the African element, used to refer to the Spanish man as yellow belly pana. And then we used to look at the Garifuna brother, we used to discriminate against him too. But all this has been rooted into our past history of slavery.
You came to the United States of America. You left Belize in what year?
My first trip out here was in 1971. I and Evan Exide made a kind of tour after the defeat in the election of 1971, and we toured the United States. And then I made another one in 78 and 79, and then in 1980 I came out, and then that's when I got hooked. Well, actually my hook was because I got married, you know, while I was out here, and so I spent from 80 until 86 I decided to make a trip in '86.
I assume you were still very active in community-related activities here in the United States.
Yes, out here I was active as a Muslim. We formed a Muslim group called the Los Angeles Muslim of Belize, and we produced a newspaper called Belizean Focus. And then later on in '85, I helped in the formation of the group called BREDA, or the Belize Rural Economic Development of Agriculture Through Alliance, which has now the radio program and KPFK
90.7. Now the thing is that that group BREDA is still presently in existence.
Yes.
Are you doing groundwork for them in Belize? Because you don't live in the United States anymore. You live in Belize.
Right. I am. The group is working on a plan to start a part of their program, which is the agricultural program in Belize, in the area called More Tomorrow. And I am supposed to do groundwork. I've been doing feasibility study for the group.
Would you care to expound a little bit more on that project that you're talking about in More Tomorrow?
The location of More Tomorrow is approximately 44 miles from the Belize city on the Western Highway. And then you travel another 7 miles, and that gets you to the Belize River. And the More Tomorrow area is a village. And I have some property out there myself. And I have offered the group some of this land to start its initial program. So this is we're in the preparation stage for the group to launch that program. It will have its project phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you know, and each. So we're planning to launch for phase 1 now.
What kind of crops do you intend to grow in that area?
Initial stage, we're planning to just start out with some permanent crops, such as coconut trees, some bananas, and crops like those. And then as we set up properly, we can deal with what we call cash crops, like you know, rice, beans, vegetables, etc.
Does the group have any initial funding for this this kind of project?
Right now, they are in the process of staging a few functions to raise money for this venture. And as such, whatever money is made, a part of it will go to the land project, and some part of it go to the radio program.
Do you think that such a project is necessary? Don't you think the government of Belize is doing enough for agriculture in Belize at this present time?
I like to say no. They are doing some work like the previous government, but there's a lot of areas that needs to be strengthened.
Would you care to be a little bit more specific?
Okay, one of the areas is that there is not enough PR or education in this area. For instance, the television, the radio, the schools, and other areas needs to be I would say, orientated to the point where they can raise up young Belizeans from the kindergarten up into, starting with the gardening and move on to the bigger part of agriculture.
Are you saying that it needs to also become maybe one of the elements of their curriculum?
Definitely, definitely. I can recall when I was a little boy, you know, I was born in the Orange Walk district, and going to school, we used to have big gardens from the school, and from there I got my beginning part of agriculture, you know, do little raising different vegetables and so on. So, and I see it in Belize City, they made a start with the, what they call the REAP program, but I have been in contact with the district chair lady in Belize, and I got a report, and it was very, very poor. He's not getting the kind of support he's supposed to get. They had an exhibition in, I think it was August of '87, and it was very poorly attended. I gave them some pointers, the need to use the media properly, and so on, you know. But there's only so much some people can do, but I think the government, the weight of this thing have to be rest with the government of the day. regardless of which government that is.
So you're saying that we should use the radio a little bit more, and
The radio, the
use it more
television,
effectively.
you know, and every facilities that we have available to orientate or reorientate our people, especially the young people. 'Cause a lot of the old heads now are dying out. Some of them get tired, you know, and the new blood has to take over.
Now, what kind of impact do you think that we would get from the people, particularly in the metropolitan areas, like, for example, Belmopan and Belize City, where the bulk of the population is? Do you think that using those media that you mentioned, the radio, the television, the newspapers, using those a little bit more and using it definitely with more effectiveness, do you think that they would respond? Because it would appear to me that people in those particular areas, Belize City and Belmopan, what they get is a lot of American type of programs from the television. And I'm not really aware right now of what is being channeled through the radio station and the newspapers and so forth. But it would appear to me that they are more, from a cultural point of view, they're more steering towards the American type of culture and type of living.
It's true. And for that reason, I say that the program, I would recommend a program called Culture Agriculture. That should be the subject, because your culture should be tied in with agriculture. That is a basic thing. You see, agriculture is the natural life-giving factor for any nation. This is the thing that has made America great.
Okay.
You know?
Well, this is not something that can be done overnight either. I mean,
no, it is not an overnight thing. And I would say if these measures or ideas that I'm putting out would be implemented in 1988, let 1988 be a new beginning for government and people. I would say we set a target for the year 2000. And I guarantee you, if government do their part with all the publicity and build the proper infrastructure such as roads, which is one of the factors that is needed to implement a good agricultural program in Belize. There's a lot of very good fertile land that is locked in because they do not have an all-weather road. You can plant your stuff, and then when the rain comes down, it all stay there and rot. We need to break that barrier. Then the next factor, we need to have marketing. Now, the other day we just had a good example why there's a need for agriculture. In November, December, there was a shortage of rice. Belize shouldn't suffer that. You know, so this is just an example of what we're still.
That brings us back to the marketing board. What are they doing?
I don't know what has happened over the years in my absence, and I don't know what new program the government has initiated, but I believe the marketing board itself over the years have not had enough help from the government. That is, they need to have proper machinery and so on to help buy the rice, shell it, whatever. Sometimes people, when you go and buy the rice from the marketing board, it's so dirty and all that, people just turn off. I think if government puts some more interest, spend some more money in that, get a good trasher and all that, they will encourage the marketing there, because just the local consumption of rice is a big market.
How about the road network in Belize? Is that also a factor?
That is one of the major factors. We have I think we have the main roads like the Southern Highway, Western, Northern, which is all right. But when we start to talk about the veins that leads off into the villages, which is the important factors, that's where the problem starts. There are only a few villages that has our weather road at this time.
Okay, could you sum it up for me in about 45 seconds? What is the solution to the agricultural problem in Belize?
The solution, I describe it that we need to start an agricultural revolution, a new revolution. And until we do that, Belize will never be self-sufficient in food. And so we start from the kindergarten right up. And I guarantee you, with government doing its part with helping in the marketing, and you have people who have become expert starting business between America and other parts of the world. Just don't tie yourself or your business into America only, but you have brothers all over the world, people all over the world. You have Africa, you have, you know, Asia, everywhere. So open up. Just don't lock yourself into a small environment. And I think by the year 2000, that would be a very good timetable.
Okay, you're thinking about going back and looking to try to help in some of these areas that you mentioned?
Definitely. That's a part of my program for the Brother Project.
This is Belize Key Connection. Shabazz, thank you very much for taking time to come down to our studios and tell us about the agricultural program, the problems and its solutions. And of course, we wish Breda and you the very best in all your endeavors in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.